Leader of the Azimiola Umojak opposition party, Raila Odinga, has rejected the results of last week's Kenya presidential election that delivered victory to his rival, Deputy President William Ruto. Addressing a press conference in the capital, Nairobi, on Tuesday, Odinga described the election outcome as a travesty and a blatant disregard of the Constitution of Kenya, insisting that there was neither a legally elected winner nor a president-elect. We have in the studio Paul James, Program Manager, Election, Yaga. He was one of the observers of that election. In fact, he was there on ground to observe and monitor the process. So thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak this morning.
Thank you for the invitation. Good morning.
All right, so let's begin by asking, how would you describe the conduct of the Kenyan presidential election?
I think it was a fair conduct to some extent. If you look at the elements you want to see in a free and fair contest, the elements of inclusion, transparency, and accountability. A lot of things checked out for the election, although voter turnout was a bit lower than what it was in 2017. In 2017, 77% participated in the election, and this time the turnout was under 65%. You had anticipated before the election that a lot of engagement will have been done to encourage participation, but the group I work with, ELO Kenya, Election Observation Group in Kenya, based on the pre-election report that they had released, it indicated that in the last 5 years, not so much has been done to encourage participation, especially of the marginalized group, women, youth, and persons with disabilities. Voter registration did happen. The commission had a target of registering 6 million, but they only did about a little under 2 million were registered. So about 22 million voters participated in the election. Election was held in 46,233 polling stations. The process, like I said, went well. It started as early as 5:30 in the morning, 6 a.m. in the morning. Officials were out by 5:30 in the morning and went on until about 5 in the evening. One thing that the commission did that is commendable is its own attempt at being open throughout the process, especially just like we now have in Nigeria. You can view the results as they have been announced at the polling unit on an online viewing portal. So whilst the commission was even still collating its results, we have independent groups that also did their own parallel tabulation and were able to come out with what they think will have been the outcome from the election. Like I said, there were concerns going into the election, issues around campaign finances and all of that. They had a law from 2013 that seeks to regulate campaign financing, but that wasn't adhered to strictly in this election, and so there was this uneven playing field for...
Okay, so why do you think there was the drop in the voter turnout? Could it be because of the post-election violence that happened in 2017?
Not very much. In fact, I think Kenya recorded a minimal pre-election related violence this time than it was in the last time. I think it was more about the paucity of resources to conduct voter engagement. Even the group that I work with had also complained about resources, limited resources to engage in that. But you expect that the commission will have done that. The commission didn't do so much in aspects of voter registration. And then there were complaints also before the election about openness. For instance, I work with a group that deployed over 5,000 observers for the election, and I can tell you, until the week of the election, we also couldn't access the guideline for the election. Voter register was subjected to audit by the KPMG. Until the election, most people didn't even see the results of the audit of the voter register. Even the display of the register was a challenge. 17 days to the election, people were complaining about not seeing the register to audit the register. So there were all of those underlying challenges before the commission went into the election. But I think they didn't do so much, like a lot have said, in the last 5 years to see how they can encourage more young persons to engage in the process. Most of the participation that we have seen in Kenya were as a result of some of the happenings within the political parties, the disagreement, dissatisfactions within political parties that led others to jump ship, and then because of that, we're able to also galvanize sympathy support from their supporters, and also which led to what we saw in the elections.
So would you say that there was no improvement in this election from the last election that was conducted in Kenya?
If you put this side by side with the 2013, 2017, and now, like I said, to some extent there has been improvement. For instance, even in the opening of polls in 2017, polls opened late. Polls were supposed to start at 6 a.m. 2013 record that I saw showed that most polling stations open from 55% of polling stations open between 6 and 7 a.m. But this time, 94% of polling stations opened by 7 a.m. and the rest opened by 8 a.m. They also had this device for biometrics. They call it Kenya Integrated Election Management System.
That's like an equivalent of the beavers?
Like the beavers we had here. So for the functionality of the beavers, of their beavers, the KENYA'S kit, in 2017, it failed to function in about 7.7% of polling stations. Now it failed to function in about 6.3% of polling stations. So there were some issues around the election. For instance, there was even the concern around communication from the commission, like I mentioned. Election day, we just got to find out that, oh, the commission is not going to use the register, for instance. You wonder how are they going to accredit voters? Because the initial thought was they were going to use the register and cross off voters' name as voters come to engage the process. They decided to use a beaver, which I thought is very innovative because, of course, all your details are there. So they used a KENYA'S kit and everything was there. But then it was also a big concern on the part of the political parties. Everybody raised concerns to that, like they should have been properly briefed about that, because there were also instances where the beavers failed to function. So, in some places, the KENYA'S kit fails to function, so they had to.
You think that that decision could raise suspicion, right? Is that the case?
Well, I think
the communication gap there.
Well, yeah, those are the kind of things I think as part of the post-election reform that they could go back, reflect back and look at those issues and see how they can improve on that. But I don't think there wasn't so much of a noise around it because I think the process works seamlessly.
Okay,
but locations where the KENYA'S kit didn't work, they then refer to using the manual register.
So, but despite the technological deployment in that election, it took like almost a week, you know, for the results to eventually come out. So why the delay? Was that really necessary? Because
that is what their constitution says. The constitution gives the commission 7 days from the day that the election is conducted to announce a winner. The constitution also mandates that from the date that a winner is announced, 2 weeks after that inauguration should happen. So they have almost all of this affixed in their constitution. For instance, one of the candidates is already saying he will go to court. If the candidate will go to court, this whole process will be delayed for 60 days until after the court proceedings. So it's constitutional. But
so does it mean that, yes, the constitution has provided for it? Do you have to now wait until all to do the 7 days, or you can actually finish much earlier?
You can finish earlier, but I think what happened in their case was the fact that there were places where results were coming in a bit slower. There was a constituency. Constituencies like what we call maybe, well, the arrangement is from the polling station, they move to constituencies. They skip counties. Counties are like our state. They skip county that will go to the higher one, and then they go to the national collation. So there was a county that did not conduct election on the same day. I think elders didn't conduct election on the same day as other counties because there were concerns of violence in a few locations, and so they decided to suspend the entire election and conduct it the following day. So that was also part of the delay. But also of the fact that I was concerned when the results started trickling in. You got stations, TV stations like Trust TV and all of that, that were all there, well established with their own data center, and were scraping the data as the commission was uploading it on this portal. So like you have individuals that have also collated their results. At some point by Friday, Saturday of last week, you could even tell who was winning the election. So we were concerned that that could lead to tension in town if the commission doesn't control, if they don't censor what was happening at that point. And thankfully, the commission came up with a statement and asked them to soft pedal on doing the tabulation until the final collation by the commission. So there were also a few places where the results were uploaded, but then the tabulation were a problem, so they had to resolve those issues before the final thing that we saw. And now constitutionally, they have to declare a winner by Tuesday. And that could have been the reason that led to the action we saw on Tuesday.
All right, but I would like you to speak to this situation. The fact that 4 members of the 7-man electoral committee, or commission as it were, refused to endorse it, saying that, and the reason they gave was because, according to them, the opaque nature of the result. You were on ground. Why do you think that happened?
They didn't speak about the process. They spoke about the tabulation. You should be concerned about that. They said they were going to come up with a statement after all of this is done. The follow-up statement they came up with was about putting all the figures together, and then it ended up with 100% and 1. If you see the follow-up statement from yesterday, which could happen mathematically around in error. If you go by what every of the candidates had got from the election, the Constitution said to emerge a winner, you have to have 50% plus 1 of the vote. You have to also win in 24 of the counties. That is winning a quarter of the vote in 24 of the counties, at least 24 of the counties. Both candidates won a quarter of the vote. One got in 39, one got in 34 counties. They have 47 counties. So they had both passed that mark. And then one got 50 plus 1%, one got 48.85%. Now, you also have other 2 candidates in the election that got other small vote, one about 23, 0.23, one 0.44. So when you put all of that together, you get what they were complaining about, which I thought it could happen in mathematics. Now, beyond that also is the fact that these results were already out there, like I said. We ran an independent assessment of the election. I was supposed to be on air on Wednesday here last week. I declined because we were still, I thought it was also a bit tense to talk about the election. We tabulated our results, and I can tell you, as from Wednesday last week, we had an idea who was winning the election.
So you do not think that that grounds was enough for those?
I don't think it was enough. They had their issues. Now, where did they make the announcement from? They had what they call the Bomas of Kenya. Bomas of Kenya is like the collation center. And so they were not at the Bomas of Kenya. Collation was delayed. Collation was supposed to be at 3 p.m. Kenyan time, which is like 1 p.m. Nigerian time. Collation didn't happen until 5 p.m. Announcement didn't happen until 5 p.m. Kenyan time because of those disagreements amongst them. That is one. Number 2, for the announcement to happen, the leading candidates in the election were supposed to be in the Bomas of Kenya. One of the candidates was not in the room. Odinga was not in the Bomas of Kenya. Odinga was nowhere to be seen. The announcement they made was from Serena Hotel. Serena Hotel is in the heart of Nairobi. Serena Hotel is also, according to what we heard, that is where Odinga had used for his campaign and also for the election. That was his accommodation for the election. So we wouldn't know whether that decision was influenced by the interaction that may have happened around there. They have their own reasons to do that. But then constitutionally in Kenya, the returning officer is the chair of the commission. And so within his right of what to do, he had done what is needed to be done. And then also they have the latitude, the commission had also permitted that anybody that is aggrieved about the process can go to the court. And that is why, like I said, if not for this, if nothing had happened, in the next 2 weeks, Kenya will have been talking about a transition, we'll be talking about a swearing in. They have almost everything planned. For instance, there's already a committee constitutionally that is planning a transition. Okay. So if this happens, they pause until the court processes are over.
Okay, do you consider the open viewing portal a problem? Does it constitute any form of threat?
No, it didn't. It didn't. I think a lot of, that's why I talked about the three pillars you want to see: transparency, accountability, of course, and inclusivity. The part about transparency was what the commission tried to uphold in Kenya. And to some extent, people praised it. But then I was just worried about how things were communicated and how they were going far ahead of the commission. Commission was uploading.
That's the media now.
The media. Commission was getting from different angles and were uploading. They had a central point to just download and analyze. So, like, they were sincerely way ahead of the commission in terms of their announcements and all of that. By the time, I mean, you can recall what also happened here in 2019, that at the International Conference Center, INEC had to wait for results to come from all of this. It was almost also similar. At some point, you had results in. That is, what is happening is they don't rely on the ones that are uploaded online. They had to also speak to the physical results that they have received. So even when the results are uploaded online, they had to wait for the results to be submitted to the IEBC. IEBC is like the INEC there. So at some point, about 141 results have been announced by the IEBC, whilst the media had surpassed that. The media had already collected more than 280 something. So I was worried. Based on what the media was showing then, I mean, everybody knew was already on a very clear lead. So,
well, the clear lead, I mean, what we saw is the difference between Raila Odinga and Ruto is about 2%. What do you think about that?
This has been the same in Kenya election, like all the three elections. If you go back to the 2017, it's also similar thing between him and the incumbent president.
Kenyatta.
Yeah, Kenyatta now. So it's always like that. The contest is always very keen like that in Kenya. And then, I mean, the whole thing is out there. Oh. The whole results are out there. And it's about both of them testing their own strength. What we heard, true or not, I don't know, is for some people a payback time, because even the biggest supporter of Odinga, I heard, didn't also win election in his own county. So people use that as their own way of paying back.
All right, now let's talk about the reactions that followed. What's the reaction like in Kenya? I mean, this is a deputy president who was not supported by the president. And then you have Raila Odinga again, who has been a kind of a serial
5 times
candidate in contesting for that office. So what's the reaction like?
So we should also get back to the background to all of this. They had their squabbles, they had their issues, but then what we saw in all of this was the fact that it's all about interest for the three biggest gladiators in the party. For instance, the president, Kenyatta, and Ruto were both of the Jubilee Party. Ruto left the Jubilee Party when they had their issues with the president and started the UDA. UDA is barely 2 years. And then Kenyatta left the Jubilee Party to team up with his closest rival, Odinga, just to see that Ruto is not able to get the ticket. Election happened, and we're where we are. Now, if you go also by what had happened in the election, Ruto had just only won the presidential seat. Of, I think, the seats that were contested, UDA only won about 15 seats in the National Assembly. They did not win any of the governorship seats in the 47 counties that I know of. Now, that is why I say it's just all about the interest. What the people, and then both of them came up with some slogans that they think appeal to the young there. Ruto came up with his own slogan about the hustler party. Their own is just to hustle, get the tickets and all of that. So I think it was a catchphrase that worked with the young people. So he got the support of the young. The other one, they call him Baba. People think he should get sympathy votes because Baba had contested 5 times. Baba is 77. This could be the last time for Baba. So that was also the part of the sympathy for Baba. But, I mean, putting the two camps together. that was why the results were that close. There are people that were voting for Baba because they think Baba deserves it now. There are people that are voting for this because they don't think the seat is a monarchical seat that somebody should just inherit on the basis that somebody said it is their own time now to rule. So I think that was what played out. But in terms of also reaction, the reaction started, like I said, since Friday last week.
Okay, so on the whole now, for us to conclude, what are the lessons there for Nigeria as we approach the 2023?
I think early engagement. Nigeria is on the right track, but I think we shouldn't relent. For Kenya, for instance, most of this engagement didn't happen until very close to the election. Kenya deployed technology, and as much as it's helped to boost integrity of the process and help to boost confidence, I think there should be a bit of, there should have been a bit of censorship to control how the media drove the narrative for the election. I was just concerned about post-election related violence, especially given what we saw in the last cycle of elections in Kenya in 2017. I hope that doesn't happen. And also, on the part of the commission is also the concern around being more open, communicating more. So I'm hoping that also those are lessons. INEC chair was there, Professor Jega was there, Engineer Chidi of the ICT department, INEC, all of them were there. So I just hope that they took those lessons from Kenya and we'll see how they put them in play to ensure we have a good election in Nigeria.
All right, thank you so much, Paul James. He is the program manager election in Yaga Africa. He has been our guest. Thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak.
Thank you very much.